Today we're going to talk about fungi facts, and you have a paper that you're going to be filling in the blanks on as we discuss the information about fungi. Can you all see? Okay, so just some information about fungi. Some of this you will be able to help me with because you know this information. First of all, your science things are on the floor, on the counter, anywhere but in front of you. You need to put them on your desk. You come to science class means have your science things. Your binder is not a storage place. All right, fungi have a nuclei. So therefore, what kind of cells are they? Eukaryotic cells. So please make sure you fill that information in. They cannot make their own food, so they have to get food from other places, which makes them what? Consumers, also known as? And what does that mean, Maggie?
I'm not sure.
Not sure. You didn't do your homework. What does that mean, Wiggins?
The same eaters.
Same eaters. Troph means, comes from the word?
Trophus.
Trophus, which means feeding. So they are feeders, which means they have to feed on something. They cannot make their own food. Therefore, they are a consumer. They must live near the food, which means that they cannot do what? They can't travel. They can't move. So they have to live near their food. So we've covered two traits about fungi just thus far. Some are single cell, but most must be multicellular. Here's where we get into some vocabulary. And you'll notice on your paper you have areas that are pre-highlighted. If you want to take out your own highlighter and re-highlight it so that you notice the vocabulary that you'll need and that will be very important for you, then you can highlight it as well. But the single cellular or the multicellular fungi are made up of these chains, and these chains are called hyphae. Now your hyphae are these thread-like fungal filaments. So they're all threaded together, and they're made up of cells within the opening of the cell wall, which looks something like this. See the thread? Now your cell wall for fungi is made up of this stuff called chitin. Chitin is a sugar-based protectant. It's a very hard base protectant. Not too hard to break, but hard enough to protect. How many of you ever ate a lobster? Crab leg. Or touch the bug. This is the bug coming out of an exoshell, and like a locust that does that. But those shells kind of feel like your fingernail, right? It's tough, and these shells are made of chitin, and the outside of the fungi cell wall is made of this stuff, chitin, and it's sugar-based. All right, hyphae that make up fungus, they grow together in this twisted mass. So they're all twisted together, and it's called mycelium. And this is hidden underground. Looks like that. Twisted mass, all like a big confusing mess. Yes, this is fungi mycelium. All right. When we look at the fungi, we can say that many of them break down food and eat dead plant or dead animal matter, which means they are considered decomposers. Piggybacking off of the second bullet from the top, they get their nutrients from other sources, which means they are heterotrophs, also known as consumers or feeders. What they do is they secrete these juices onto their food, kind of like our body on the inside secretes these juices, and they're called enzymes. And those enzymes in our body helps us to break down and digest food. Same thing with the fungi. Those enzymes help the fungi to absorb and digest the food or dissolve it. Now they work in these relationships, they work in symbiosis. And those are relationships between organisms. We're going to watch a short video about symbiosis. While you're watching that video, I want you to look at these last 3 bullets and see if you can fill in the blank on what type of symbiotic relationship are these that are being discussed.
Hey, can you reach those pretzels way up there? Thanks. What'd I do without you? Dear Tim and Moby, what's up with those birds that hang out in the crocodile's mouth? From Benson. Ah, that's one of my favorite symbiotic relationships. A symbiotic relationship, or symbiosis, occurs when 2 species live in close contact with one another. There are 3 main categories of symbiosis, distinguished by whether the relationship is harmful or helpful to one or both of the species. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship that benefits both species. Those crocodile birds, Egyptian plovers, are an example of mutualism. According to legend, they hang out in crocodiles' mouths to pick food from their teeth.
It's a living.
The plover gets to eat, and the crocodile gets his teeth cleaned. Before you get all squeamish about mutualism, you should know that I'm a living example of mutual symbiosis. Inside my intestines, bacteria are helping me digest my food. No, I don't need a doctor. Everybody has them. Those bacteria have a food supply, and I get to eat a wider range of things. Not all types of symbiosis are beneficial. In parasitism, one species grows stronger by harming another species. Take the bot fly. This nasty little bugger spends the first part of its life inside the bodies of mammals. Once a bot fly egg gets under an animal's skin, it hatches and burrows into the flesh. A bot fly larva grows to maturity inside its animal host, totally safe from predators. When it's all grown, it crawls to the surface and hops away. As for the host, she'll usually develop a big old lump and experience some serious pain. And after the larva crawls out, its hole can become infected. Don't worry, it's pretty rare for them to bite humans. And I don't think it can burrow through metal. Anyway, there's also a third type of symbiosis, commensalism. That's where one species benefits while the other is unaffected. It's pretty common. For example, some tropical orchids grow in trees. By positioning itself on a branch, the orchid can get the sunlight it needs to live and grow. It doesn't hurt the tree at all, but it doesn't help it either. Yeah, I guess you and I sort of live in symbiosis too. I give you a house to live in, food, energy, and friendship, and you give me... Wait, what exactly do you do for me again? Oh, right, pretzels. I forgot about the pretzels.
All right. So, what type of symbiotic relationship is where only one benefits and the other one is actually harmed? You sure can throw your voice all over the place. Parasitism, yes. Uh-oh. There we go. Parasitism. What is the one where one benefits and the other is unharmed? So nothing happens with the other. Commensalism. And where both benefit? Mutualism. Which one of these would correctly depict your relationship with your parents? It depends on the parent or the child. What about the relationship here?
Parasitism.
Again, it depends on the person. All right. So, what you all have a mutualistic relationship, symbiotic relationship going on right now. What is it? In your body, what's happening?
All the bacteria.
The bacteria that's feeding on the stuff in your body is helping you so you can digest it, and it's also helping itself because you're helping it by feeding it what it needs, so that the bacteria can survive. So that's that mutualistic relationship going on there. So your fungi can follow one of these relationships, symbiotic relationships. All right, there's 5 kinds of fungi that we're going to talk about. The first one we're going to speak about are your threat-like fungi. This is one that you're probably familiar with, maybe in your bedroom, or if you left your lunchbox sitting out all spring break and then you opened it up on Sunday night to make your lunch. You probably saw some threat-like fungi. A little bit of fuzziness. What would that be? Mold. Most mold, however, lives in soil, which we see here. But they can go on fruits and breads and even clothing. This thread-like fungi, it breaks down plants and animals, therefore it would be considered a decomposer. They need a host to survive, so it's also a parasite. It reproduces 2 types of ways. It's asexual. And what happens in the asexual reproduction is parts of its hyphae. Remember we talked about the hyphae being inside the cell wall. They grow into the air and they form these things called sporangia. And sporangia is just a case that holds, what do you think it holds? Spores. And they get into the air and then the sporangia break apart and what do you think they release? Spores into the air. And then those are traveled by the wind and that's how it reproduces. But it also can produce sexually where the hyphae from one connects with the hyphae from another to form a new sporangia. Commensalism? Oh, yes, I think I left that out. Let me go back for just a second. My apologies. I didn't put that on the paper. I apologize. An example where fungus grows in or on the roots of plants. Oh, sorry. Below mutualism, it has some information there where it says fungus grows in or roots of plants. The fungus protects the plant from disease, helps the root to absorb nutrients, and the fungus is fed. This relationship between plant and fungus is called mycorrhiza. That's mycorrhiza. Again, on your notes underneath mutualism, it talks about the relationship between fungus and plant. They have a relationship. It's a mutualistic relationship, and that relationship is called mycorrhiza. That's mycorrhiza. Got it? Okay, good. All right, then we left off here with the sexual relationship again. The hyphae join together to form new sporangia. All right, the second type we're going to talk about is sac fungi. They're your largest group. These are going to include your yeast. It's also going to include something that you're probably all familiar with as well, which is mildew. But this is an example of yeast here, and it's actually in its reproduction phase, which we'll talk about what that is in just a moment. Mildew is the other type of sac fungi. Truffles and morels as well. So the first picture of the leaf is of mildew. The second one of the home is also a mildewing home. Maybe there was a flood or some sort. The other one is a piece of carpet that has mildew growing on it. And then we have truffles, not the chocolate truffles that we all love, the Lindor truffles. But the reason why those are called that because they kind of are similar to looking like this. But this is an actual truffle, which is a type of fungi that people do eat. And then we have morels that look like irregular shaped mushrooms, and people do eat those as well. Jack.
Why are truffle filled?
The chocolate?
Yeah, truffles.
Oh, because they're hard to come by. All right. So then we're going to talk about the reproduction. Sac fungi reproduce asexually. Your yeast produce using what's called budding. In that picture that we saw of yeast, it was budding. What happens is a piece of it just pinches off, and when it does, that's a new yeast. Yeast produce asexually, however, other sac fungi produce sexually. From a sac of the sac fungi, it produces something called ascus. Well, if you ask us, we'll tell you. It's a form from the sac fungi, and it's actually a sexual spore-bearing cell. So it has spores in it, and it produces the spores so that it can bind with other spores to reproduce more sac fungi. There's some benefit to us. What can we do with yeast besides make beer?
Bread.
Bread. There's also wine can be made from yeast. Sac fungi can also give us medicine known as antibiotics.
Is that ASCUS?
Yes, ascus, A-S-C-U-S. And then those foods, those fancy foods, truffles and morels, also come from sac fungi. That next bullet that you guys have, that should not be there. That was an error. The harms of sac fungi is it's parasitic to plants and animals. The third type of fungi we're going to talk about is club fungi. Now, these are the most popular. Why? Because they're fungi that hang out in clubs. No, that's not true. But they do have clubs. They're most familiar, well, they're called club fungi, but they're most familiar because of their umbrella cap, which we know these as to be mushrooms. We also call them gill fungi. Why do you think we call them gill fungi? Exactly. If you flip the mushroom over, you would see these things that look like gills. And these are called your gill fungi. They reproduce sexually. Something called basidia. It's the club-like structure formed from hyphae, and then it forms spores. All these are spore forming, either sexually or asexually. The benefits to us, we find them in the grocery store. Again, they're called mushrooms. Only eat the ones from the grocery store. Please don't be in your backyard, see a mushroom growing, and you pick it and think you're saving your parents some money. No. Exactly. Do not eat any mushrooms from a yard unless you've purchased them or been approved by your parents. All right. Harms. Reason why you don't eat them from a yard is because they're poisonous. They can be poisonous. There are some that are so fatal to the taste or even the touch, where it can kill you or harm you suddenly. One in particular would be the white destroying angel. Yeah, and give you that name for a reason. Destroying angel.
I don't know if this is true, but if you eat mushrooms and you drink, like, I don't know, alcohol or something, can it cause a severe reaction inside you?
I'm not really sure. We have to research that and see. Yes.
So this is the kind that psychedelic mushrooms are? That's club fungi?
Not really sure, but it's possible. They can be any kind because all of them have some poisonous tendencies depending on the ones you have. All right. The fourth type we're talking about, it's called no mushroom club fungi, which means that they don't have the gills, but they're still considered a club fungi. You have ones that are called bracket fungi, and they grow like step ladders on a tree. I'm sure if any of you went hiking or camping, or even in your neighborhood, if you live in the rural area, you may have seen them look like this. Another type are edible, and these are called puffballs. Some are edible, not all of them. And you've seen some of these maybe pop up in your yard. But don't eat these. I said some are. They have to be grown a certain way and produced a certain way.
Are those ones that we can step on? They make that smell stuff.
Yeah, that's what they're called puffballs. All right. There's others that attack crops like corn and wheat, and they're called smut. And they look like that.
Looks like popcorn.
But the corn is popped. But no. And then the last type that we're going to talk about is just called imperfect fungi. It's because it includes all of the other species because there are so many more, but there are not so many more we can put them in different other categories because they're so random. So we just put them all in one category called imperfect. Right. One. It reproduces asexually. And we just don't go into a whole lot of detail because this includes a lot of different species of fungi. But we can talk about the benefits. Medicine is one benefit. Like penicillin. Penicillin is made from a fungi called Penicillium. Now here's some cool information. We've already known that bread and wine and beer. So there's more foods that fungi comes from. The imperfect fungi, how many of you visited Japanese or Chinese or any type of Asian restaurant? And how many of you like maybe shrimp fried rice or hibachi shrimp or steak or chicken or rice and chicken or any type of rice? Brown rice, fried rice. What do you normally put on it? Soy sauce. Soy sauce is made from imperfect fungi. If you think that's nasty and you never had soy sauce, well, I bet you I'll get you with this one. Cheeses are made with fungi, like blue cheese.
No, see, I don't eat that kind of cheese. I eat white, not white.
There's other types of
Yellow
cheese.
cheese. Yellow cheese. That's all I eat.
Okay, probably didn't get you with that one. However, what's your favorite drink?
Apple juice.
We live in the South. Most of you don't go for Pepsi, you go for citric acid in cola. Even Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola. The perfect fungi. It used to be Pepsi Cola. My juice made up of a whole nother bunch of junk. It's made of juice.
It's even worse.
Of the mountain.
Oh, that's what I thought. No,
All right. Even though that it benefits us in great ways, like medicine, and adding taste and flavor and giving us a variety of things that we can enjoy in our diet, it also has some harms to us. It's parasitic, so it can cause diseases to plants and animals. It can help us with cures, but it also can cause diseases in plants and animals. For example, athlete's foot. That's a fungi. I didn't put a line for this, but ringworm is also a fungus. And there's also something called aflatoxin. And aflatoxin is a poison that causes cancer. So it can go from being very, very great to being very, very bad. Yes.
Do you know what part is most common to confuse?
What do you mean?
Like, for the body?
No, aflatoxin, no, I don't. That's a good question, though. I can look it up.
Oh, is it like the same type of imperfect fungi and we get and bad or something?
Yeah, well, no, because remember, imperfect fungi is a variety of species. All right. Then let's talk about lichen. And Mason brought this up yesterday. If you're camping or you're in the woods or you're hiking or anything like that, then you probably come across some lichen. And it's a combination of both fungus and algae. And what happens is they grow together. And algae lives in the protective walls of fungus. And that creates a symbiotic, not symbiosis, symbiotic. What type of symbiotic relationship?
No.
Say it louder. Look what this says. Mutualistic relationship where they're both benefiting from one another. The algae's feeding off some things and the fungus is protecting it. So they're working together. It uses photosynthesis for food, so therefore it must be a what? It's a producer. Lichen can be found in every kind of environment, from cold to hot, from dry to wet, because all it needs is air, light, and minerals. Nope, air, light, and minerals, that's it. So it can grow on rocks. And it actually feeds on rocks to break down rocks in certain areas. So that's all it needs. Any questions about this? And we're going to watch a short video which sums up all of your notes to help you understand what it is that we talked about in a little bit of an animated way.
Monsieur, dinner is served. Grilled portobello mushrooms smothered in melted blue cheese and a light duck jus. Dear Tim and Moby, Dear Tim and Moby, why are funguses so gross? Sincerely, Princess. Not every fungus is gross. Ask Moby, he's eating some right now. Fungi are a diverse group of organisms that includes molds, microscopic yeasts, and mushrooms. They can be found in just about every environment on Earth, from forests to deserts and even beneath the ocean. Scientists believe there are more than 1 million species of fungi, and so far we've only identified a fraction of them. Well, they're kind of hard to categorize. Like plants, fungi grow in one place and can't move around on their own. But like animals, they're heterotrophs, which means they get nutrients by consuming other organisms. And like both plants and animals, fungi are eukaryotic, meaning each of their cells has a nucleus. Since they don't fit neatly into either the plant or animal kingdom, scientists created a separate category just for them, the fungi kingdom. There's a lot of diversity within that kingdom, from their physical features to the ways they reproduce. Yeah, most fungi share a few common traits. Zoom in on that mushroom. The cells of fungi are arranged into long, thread-like structures called hyphae. The cell walls are mostly made of chitin, a tough protein that's also found in insect exoskeletons. Hyphae grow at the tips, forming an interconnected network called a mycelium, which makes up the main body of many fungi. No, unlike plants, fungi can't produce energy through photosynthesis. Instead, they grow directly on food sources like soil, wood, bread, even dead flesh. Once inside the food, hyphae secrete enzymes, chemicals that break down organic matter into nutrients they can absorb. The hyphae's thread-like shape gives them a large surface area to absorb as many nutrients as possible. Well, the bulk of a fungus usually grows out of sight, underground or inside whatever it's growing on. In mushrooms, the only part we do see is the fruiting body. It's made of special hyphae that don't grow like the rest of the mycelium. Its only job is to produce spores, special cells used for reproduction. In some fungi, the spores reproduce sexually. They have to join with another fungus's spores to produce offspring. In others, they're asexual. They can reproduce on their own. Many species can produce both kinds of spores, and yeasts usually don't produce spores at all. Instead, they reproduce through an asexual process called budding, where a new organism grows from a parent's body and eventually splits off. By the way, bakers rely on yeast to make bread. You can't get away from fungi so easily, my friend. They affect our everyday lives in so many ways, bad and good. We've all heard about how some mushrooms produce deadly poisons, and how some fungi can cause skin infections like ringworm and athlete's foot. On top of that, fungi cause 80% of plant diseases. Still, life as we know it depends on fungi. They act as decomposers, breaking down dead stuff and recycling nutrients through the food chain. Then there are fungi that have symbiotic relationships or partnerships with other organisms. Many plants can't survive without special fungi that grow in their roots and help them absorb nutrients from the soil. And lichens, which are a combo of fungi and green algae, break down rocks into soil where plants can grow. We humans benefit from fungi even more directly. Most antibiotics, medicines that fight bacterial infections, are derived from fungi. And last but not least, we rely on fungi for food. Bon appetit.
All right. So yes. Possible. No, because it's the fermentation for the wine that it's used to make for. And grape juice not ferment.
Fun fact, you know,
Fun fact. Fun guy fact.
red wine, whenever it's made and it's all white, and they use the bills to red.
All right. So I've given you a whole host of information, lots and lots of information. So now your test is there's a fungus among us. What you're going to do is you are going to write a poem, a song, or a rap, because we do know that a rap is nothing but a poem. A song is nothing but a poem. It's going to be about fungus. Your poem can be any of these types of poems that you've used or learned in English class, except concrete. Cross off concrete, so that won't fit. You don't have to choose these types. You can look up other types of poems and choose one that fits these categories, but it must have some type of flow to it. So you can listen to a song and try to put it to that, or you can come up with your own type of poem or funny little song. The poem, song, or rap must include all of the highlighted words, not this highlighted word, but all of the highlighted words within your notes. You may also use any other words in your notes to help you with your poem and help make it interesting. You can use, for instance, well, your highlighted word is penicillium. You can use penicillin. Jack, give me 1 second. Let me finish explaining first. So if you use penicillin, that would count for penicillium. Same thing for symbiosis. You have symbiosis for your word. You can use symbiotic. That would be the same. So if you use a derivative of the word, that's fine. You must use at least one type of symbiosis. So you have to use mutualism or parasitic or commensalism. Or you can call it mutualistic or parasitism. Your poem must have at least 20 lines. It could be more, but no less than 20. It can be funny, but you must make some sort of sense out of the vocabulary words that are highlighted. You may start by using the title above if you like, or you can use whatever title you want. It must be colorful, neat, and creative. I'm providing you with all of the materials. However, if you're not working in class today and you don't get anything done because maybe you don't want to think or whatever, I don't know what your issue may be, then you will have homework. This is not designed to be homework. We'll be working in class tomorrow as well, and then it'll be due after that. So you must be working, but if you choose not to work in class, then you will have homework, so make use of your time. You can use all of my materials, paper, tape, glue, scissors, rulers, color pencils, markers, all that stuff that you need. I have all that construction paper over there. Just make sure it goes back neatly. You can use your notes because you have a lot of information there. There's textbooks up here, which also have some cool pictures, page 590 to 596. And you can use the internet, so you will have your smart technology for you to help you there. Question, Jack.
If we have to use all the words and make it 20 lines, how are we going to do an acrostic poem?
And that won't be one you can do either.
Are we presenting them?
Yes. Cross off acrostic. Don't worry, no, you can't use it. the next day early in the morning. I mean, when you come to class. Any other questions on this? All right, then give me 1 second.